Hello and welcome to the video. My name is Wade Smith, and I'm going to try to explain this another way. Starting with the same explanation, but then another way as well. This video is entitled "Atheists Do Not Understand Ontology Nor the Big Bang Model," all caps. It is a model, all caps. It is not reality, quote unquote. So, the first thing you have to realize is that physics is a model, and indeed all science, all man-made science, is a model. It is not reality. The way science is supposed to work is you're supposed to observe reality and then refine your model until the model is more correct. If there is a difference between the model and reality, you're supposed to throw out the model and replace it with a better one, aren't you? That's what you were taught. But that's not what atheists do. Atheists demand that God submit to their model. So there is no reason, and in fact, I'm going to prove from your own model, your model doesn't even support the claim. So he's wrong anyway. He's wrong. He doesn't even know what he's talking about. But neither the physical observations in the universe nor the existing standard model actually supports the claim that small things make up big things. Because in the Big Bang model, everything came from one supermassive singularity. The singularity was not made of quarks and leptons. That would be incorrect because it wouldn't be a singularity if it was. The singularity was supposedly an infinitely dense matter and energy condition at an infinite density and an infinite temperature. And then this infinitely dense condition of energy, or whatever it was, became the quarks and leptons and energy that you see in the universe. Well, we don't actually see any of those because they're too small to see. But anyway, you get the model. The model says that everything came from a cosmic singularity, and that cosmic singularity was it didn't contain all matter and energy. It was all matter and energy as a single point. Is what the classical Big Bang theory is. And so in the model, all the smaller things, in fact, came from one big thing that was apparently nearly infinitely big. Now, didn't it? So, right away, the atheist mocking me for saying that hydrogen and oxygen could have come from water and not the other way around. He's not observing that the founding ontology of the Big Bang model agrees with me that big things can be their origin and can be broken down into smaller things rather than the other way around. So there's no way to prove that hydrogen was the first substance in the universe, nor helium, nor lithium, nor a trace of carbon or whatever, because uh, in the present model, anyway, let's just say in the present model that they're using, the light from the oldest eons of the universe has not reached us yet. So you can't look at it, supposedly. And light from nearby in the universe from that time period has actually passed us up. But the stuff that's the oldest and farthest away has not reached us yet. All right, so you can't look at it. Recently, they tried to theorize that first generation or so-called population 3 stars created and seeded the universe with nitrogen, and in fact, they're claiming that it's more nitrogen than expected, based on some nitrogen observations by the James Webb Telescope. I'm going to propose that explanation is also wrong because the problem with population 3 stars, which there's supposedly anywhere from a couple hundred solar masses all the way up to thousands or even apparently tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of solar masses, although they just started proposing 1,000 plus solar masses recently in an attempt to explain where supermassive black holes came from. I'm about to get there. A little more than 80 solar masses for a star. First of all, stars bigger than 45 solar masses cannot form by accretion. They can only form by head-on collision of smaller stars. That's already been proven. So that's not my proof. That is actual established theory. All right. Secondly, stars bigger than about 80 to 100 solar masses or so automatically collapse directly into a black hole with very little stellar fusion happening because they're simply too dense and too massive to begin with. So the hypothesis of 1,000 and 10,000 and 100,000 solar mass stars producing and releasing nitrogen has got to be wrong because the surface gravity of the star is actually above the speed of light, and the nitrogen could never escape the star, even if it tried to have a supernova. It's already a black hole inside of an event horizon. Let's clear something up while we're here. Many people credit Albert Einstein for the theory of black holes. Albert Einstein said almost nothing about black holes. And in fact, the first theory of black holes is proposed by John Mitchell some 80 years before Albert Einstein was even born. John Mitchell proposed dark stars, which were supermassive, super large stars that had a surface gravity so high that not even light could escape. He did not. He proposed that he did that by assuming an average density similar to the sun, and then just calculating how much mass the star would have to produce an event horizon that light could not escape, using Newton's gravity, which was actually the correct formula because the Schwarzschild radius is still calculated using the escape velocity according to Newton's gravity. All right, so John Mitchell he had the intellectual capacity, he could have proposed that the stars were more dense than the sun. He just didn't bother doing the calculation for that. But the supermassive black holes they're finding now are almost as massive as Mitchell's dark stars proposal was, and they're almost as big, which means that Mitchell was on the right track, wasn't he? Of course, he wasn't perfect because he was the first person to propose the idea. Of course, it's got to be refined, but along comes general relativity, and everybody starts crediting John Mitchell's idea to Albert Einstein incorrectly. Well, John Mitchell should be posthumously awarded the Nobel Prize in physics because he got it right. The supermassive black holes are the dark stars that John Mitchell calculated. And if you started with a star that is that massive, it according to the real known laws that we know now that are close enough that we're close enough to what the truth is that we can't deny it like a moron, such as gravity, the strong, the weak force, and the electromagnetic force, which we know that the strong, weak, and electromagnetic force are actually unified even in the modern universe. Now we know how to do that. All right. So in massive enough stars above 100 solar masses or so, 80 to 100 solar masses or so, the nuclear forces fail and gravity crushes the entire star directly into a black hole. Immediately, not millions or billions of years later. All right. So their explanation of where the excess nitrogen is coming from that their present theory doesn't explain, their explanation doesn't explain it yet either. Because again, if it was 1,000 solar mass star, it would collapse into a black hole instantly. It would not sit there for 10 million years and blow off shells of nitrogen. That's already been known since Einstein's time. All right. Because recall, according to general relativity, at least, the folding of space-time and the bending of light is actually twice as strong as Newton's theory alone predicts, supposedly. I don't know if I trust that or not because I don't see a way to prove it, and I actually see at least one flaw in the calculation that Arthur Eddington did, which is that he did not take Snell's law of the mechanical lensing of the corona into effect. And by the way, if you Google AI search for Snell's law in the corona, the AI will try to claim that Snell's law doesn't apply, which is a lie and is a falsehood. Don't believe everything the AI says. Because in real physics, you're not allowed to neglect or consider anything negligible. Everything, every conceivable variable, both known and unknown, is required to be taken into consideration, especially if you actually plan on doing engineering with something like that. Now, don't you think, like, for example, if you want to build a warp drive, every variable in the universe, both known and unknown, would need to be correctly calculated to build a warp drive. Now, wouldn't you think that? All right. So don't tell me that the corona is negligible to the bending of starlight, because that's a lie. And yet that's what Google AI responded when I searched it. All right. Because I was trying to figure out how to do the calculation if you apply Snell's law to the gravitational lensing in the corona. But the AI wouldn't help me because it kept insisting that it's negligible and doesn't need to be calculated, which is a lie. All right. Um, So, big things such as the cosmic egg theory, the Big Bang theory, can in fact create smaller things that never existed previously. So, the atheists tried to claim that big things are necessarily made of smaller things, namely that water molecules are necessarily made of pre existing smaller atoms, which is not provable. It's possible that water was created directly by the Big Bang and skipped the atomic model, because water is not, as I explained in the other video, water is not simply the sum of oxygen plus two hydrogen atoms. It has a different total mass, first of all, because it actually loses some energy when it forms. So it's actually, which is even more contradictory than in the model, because water is denser than either oxygen or hydrogen. So explain that one, people, because water is not the sum of oxygen plus two hydrogen. Water is something else. And while it's true that under the right circumstances, namely electrolysis, that water breaks down into hydrogen and oxygen, water is something else. It's not the sum of an oxygen atom and two hydrogen atoms. It's actually the sum in stoichiometry, it's the sum of two hydrogen atoms and an oxygen atom minus some energy, isn't it? So that energy changes the physical and chemical properties of the molecule to be something completely different than what it's supposedly made of. Which is, again, that comes to the problem of model dependent reality, the fallacy of the physicist and the common man of assuming that the model is more real than reality itself, which is completely wrong and ridiculous. And yet every physicist, especially the atheists on the face of this earth, is making that fallacy, especially the ones that actively argue against the existence of God, is making that fallacy. Reality is one thing, and your model is inferior to reality. And no matter how much you improve the model, you will never have a model that exactly describes reality, because you cannot know everything. And ironically, your model is already good enough that it tells you that you cannot know everything, and yet you keep insisting that you already know everything.